All right. On that note, thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm the Sam Zettel, the Sam Tater, and I'm. Whoops! I don't know what just happened.
We got our theme music.
We're gonna hear it again. Woo! Oh no, we're not. There we go.
Hi, it's me, Spicy C.
Spicy C. How are you doing today, Charles?
I am awesome. Do you want to know why?
Why?
You gave me coffee earlier, and I rarely drink coffee, so now I'm full of energy.
Yeah.
Way too much energy. But I'm good about that, with that, as it were.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I am also doing well. Yeah, it's been an eventful day already, but we're looking forward to getting into some topics with you for this podcast episode. Okay, here we go. We're going to show you a little video here. I don't even know what it's about.
What?
But we should be able to hear it too.
Wow. The group was surrounded by seals. Seal attack with an octopus.
Seal attack. Yes, better let's cancel that. What do you think about that, Charles?
I think the seal is a much more angry and intelligent creature than we had given them credit for.
You're probably right.
Angry and intelligent.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this is territorial.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were in the seals' territory. I think they said that the seals surrounded them, these kayaking guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically turf war.
Yeah.
I think that's very common in the human species and between species as well. What do you think, Sam?
Well, I think the seal was just trying to eat that octopus.
Okay.
And, but they are very intelligent. Apparently, one of the more intelligent of our animal kingdom friends.
Or enemies, as the case may be.
Or enemies.
I don't
near
know.
New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
In Kaikoura, New Zealand. Yeah. And what I think is funny about it, it really hit him. Like, really slapped
You could hear
him.
that.
It was like splat across the face. Imagine getting hit in the face with an octopus tentacle. Something right out of Lord of the Rings.
The guy says, I could feel all the hard parts of the octopus in my face, like dum dum dum, like whatever beak or stuff the octopus actually has actually hit him. Yeah.
It's pretty nasty.
It was a 2-man kayak, so that's how they got such a close up to it.
Yeah. They got a nice picture of an octopus here. It's kind of small on the screen for our viewers, but the seal reappears around the flotilla of kayaks a couple more times. Huh. It's kind of just checking them out.
I think it was turf. I'm going to stick with that. Turf. It's a very, very basic animal instinct, I believe. I am not an expert.
And look what Aaron Riley has to say. Sometimes you're the seal, sometimes you're the kayaker, and sometimes you're the octopus.
That's a really good quote.
That's a very good quote.
We could basically frame a whole philosophy of life around
Way to
that.
go, Aaron Riley. Good job.
Sometimes you're the seal, sometimes you're the kayaker, and sometimes you're the octopus.
Sometimes you're the octopus. Yes.
Okay.
So, Grey Bruce. Many of you are listening from Grey Bruce counties, but for those of you who are not, Google us. We're a pair of counties, southwestern Ontario. We have, if you find Lake Huron, Georgian Bay, we're like right in the middle.
Or if you're from the GTA, go north from Brampton, and you get to
go
one
north
corner
to Brampton.
Grey,
Eventually, you'll end up in
Grey, and then you turn left, you get to Bruce.
Yeah. If you kept going, you'd get to Owen Sound, and if you kept going, you'd get to Bruce. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's beautiful here, but we have a lot of funny people, and this little article here comes from Kincardine. Wow, Kincardine, good job.
This is a steakhouse that was a movie cinema.
Yes, It was a movie cinema. Now it's the Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been there, but I hear it's good.
I've been by there.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Well,
son-
I'm
Michael
assuming
used to
I've
play-
been by there too. It's
Used to play baseball and used to go out to Kincardine a few times. And
yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I've heard of they have good food. And the inscription on there: "This virus sucks. I wanted zombies."
So I definitely say the first few weeks, forget about the really serious issues or whatever you think of the virus, but I did feel like I was in an apocalyptic movie, and I've seen them. I probably read a lot of science fiction. It's like, and often there are zombies or some like maybe some invasion from another planet. But yeah, this did not have, we've not had this like fun, exciting adventure of the human race being wiped out by zombies.
Fun, exciting adventure.
Well, we've had a boring adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Stay home, everybody, unless you're essential. So, Sam, why did you want zombies? Because you can relate to that sign.
Well, I just found this on our the weird bleep people found in Grey Bruce. Beep. So I thought it was funny, but I liked it because, well, like you, I at the beginning of the pandemic, it did seem a bit like an apocalyptic
Sure.
movie when you would drive around, especially in March. Like on some of the days when the weather was really bad, it was kind of gloomy,
Yeah.
and there were no leaves on the trees, and the ground was gray, kind of a brown. And
Great. Sam, it's like that every year, but I know what you mean.
I
It kind
know,
of felt
okay,
weird,
but
though.
The thing is, it is like that every year, but this year, because of the pandemic, because there's a crazy virus going around,
Sure.
it just felt like something bad was happening, you know?
Yep.
And like Sunday mornings, I've been coming here to do the live stream, and come here at like 8 a.m, and there's nobody there, like nobody in the like nobody out on the streets, nobody even driving. Like you wouldn't see a car the whole way here.
Mm-hmm.
It is creepy, and so it did feel a bit like, oh, you might see a bunch of zombies like.
That's a pretty good zombie. You've been watching a lot of zombie movies lately, I believe.
A TV show. I'm watching The Walking Dead.
Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But you did watch some semi-zombie movies as well.
Oh, well, like I've always been a zombie movie fan.
What do you like about zombies?
I like Resident Evil. It's about zombies.
What do you like about zombies?
What do I like about zombies?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Probably not good that I watch that stuff. I just enjoy it.
I think I read
Kind of a
something
guilty pleasure.
by G.K. Chesterton about why zombies and ghosts are really weird. Zombies are like bodies without a soul. They're just like animated corpses.
Yeah.
And ghosts are like souls without a body. And
Right.
both are really weird.
Well,
'Cause,
both are
like,
weird because we're both.
Yeah, we're
and
both.
they're like one or the other, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there's like a presence, which would be like a ghost in a house that does things, but it's not embodied, which is strange
Mhm.
in our human experience, and vice versa. Zombies, there's like it's like an animated corpse, but it's not really a person.
Hmm.
So that's why I think like kind of his point was that that's what makes things really weird. Is like it's this taking a part of what makes a person, body and soul. Anyway,
What I like about zombie shows, or actually, I would broaden the genre to post-apocalyptic or
Sure.
dystopian
yeah.
movies and TV to entertainment. I think the reason I like that is, and probably the reason they're popular in general, I would think, is because it's neat to see what people do in a real, like a severe crisis, like
Yeah.
where like civilization collapses and falls apart. And I'll be honest, one of the reasons I started watching The Walking Dead, because I had watched part of the series earlier when it came out. It's still coming out with new ones, but one of the reasons I started watching it was because of the pandemic, and I was thinking zombies. I just had them on my mind,
Yeah.
and it did feel a little bit like an apocalypse.
I've
Right.
watched like 30 seconds a couple of times of The Walking Dead, and one of the interesting things, which is why I've always loved science fiction, although I don't read as much as I used to, is that everything could be really different. Like we're not actually stuck in our civilization as it is. So like you see cities that are like ruined and they're like forests now and stuff. And on the other hand, you see like people rebuilding, feeble efforts or little efforts, but it's like we're not actually stuck with everything as it is. Things can change. There's something about like utopian about even a zombie apocalypse.
Yes, and what I like in these shows that there's a portrayal of evil.
Yep.
Certainly, like evil still exists. People still do horrible things to each other, um, in spite of their common enemy, which is the zombie hordes and
Mhm.
that kind of thing. But they also portray how people try to work together and reform a civilization,
Yeah.
reform communities. In the last season, they sign a charter, like the different groups. They sign a charter where they're all going to agree on common laws and things like that. It's
So
just
you're
kind
talking about one world government, globalization?
no,
Yes.
no.
Okay. I'm just kidding.
I'm talking about them having
kidding.
common interests in trade.
Yeah.
They're still
Know something good
distinct.
about that.
They're still distinct communities, but they have
Right.
common interests and they trade between each other. But it's neat to kind of imagine that
It is.
happening. I don't hope it happens like this, like the people on this sign where they say I wanted zombies. I don't think anybody really does want civilization to collapse. I'm sure some people do,
Some people do.
but we take another thing I wanted to say about this is we take for granted the comforts and
Oh yeah.
and the many blessings that our civilization has brought us in many ways because of Christendom.
Mm-hmm.
And we have got to be very careful we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater when there are problems in our society.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So one historian who happens to be Catholic made the point 70 or so years ago in the mid 20th century that we're trying an experiment out that no human civilization has ever tried before. Is like what would it be like to try to have a civilization without a spiritual foundation? Like whether you're thinking about, ancient Egypt or medieval China, where even like the civilizations of the Americas, they all had a spiritual foundation. You could think and believe what you want about whether they were true or not or what have you, but the idea that there's something deeper and more real than ordinary reality that guides and governs us. The gods, in the case of pagan nations, or the one god in a Muslim civilization. But this is weird, the situation we're in now, where we're like, there's no spiritual foundation. Let's see how that goes. And
Mhm.
and in some ways it's interesting because you could argue that Christianity and Islam and Judaism all take the view that all the imagined gods of other civilizations were not real. And then, of course, like secularism says, they'll take that one step further and say God is not real. So let's see what happens. And we're in the middle of a weird experiment socially. And I think that's kind of interesting. It's an interesting time to live because you're like, okay, I'm here. I'm a Christian. I believe that everything has a spiritual foundation. Let's see what happens.
It's also a scary experiment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, that's why I like them, and I hope we never have to experience that. But the reality is,
Mm-hmm.
we are likely to, in some way.
What?
We are likely to.
What are you talking about? Now you're freaking me out. What do you mean likely to?
I mean, it's very unlikely that
What?
our world will just continue like this.
You believe we're gonna have a
Forever.
real zombie apocalypse?
Not the zombie
Oh,
apocalypse.
not the zombie apocalypse.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
like some form of collapse or reset of civilization.
Okay.
Historically, it's a given. I mean, every empire, every
Mhm.
civilization rises and falls.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be like dismal here,
Okay.
but
You don't actually believe we're gonna get zombies next year?
no. I
Okay.
don't. Zombies, no.
Okay.
But certainly the things we take for granted: oil, electricity, worldwide communication. These things, although we have technology now that hopefully we wouldn't lose, they're fairly precarious. And
Mhm.
I'm not just pulling this out of my, what? This is
Back pocket.
out of my my back pocket. Good one, Charles.
Thank you. Save.
It's relatively precarious just because it relies on it's such
Sure.
a finely tuned machine with so many moving parts.
Mhm.
This really our whole civilization is founded on, and I mean like logistically,
Yeah.
maybe in the infrastructure of it is relatively fragile. And I don't mean to scare anyone. It's just sort of we need to think about what we have and not take it for granted and be thankful for it every day and work to preserve it as much as we can. And also, I think trusting in God and being ready for whatever comes in the future.
That gets to my point. I was thinking about, obviously people watch stuff like that because it's scary. Fear is actually something that motivates people. It's kind of funny but true, right? Why do people watch zombie movies? Because they're kind of scary and fun, but fun and scary kind of go together. I'm not a roller coaster person because I'm too afraid, but people who love roller coasters like that little bit of fear.
You don't like roller coasters. You're afraid of roller coasters.
I'm a very scared person.
Oh my gosh.
About many things.
Why am I doing this with you?
I know. But fear is motivating. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but it doesn't motivate you to take the roller coaster.
Too much fear on my part. But if you didn't have a little bit of fear, would you have fun with the roller coaster? It's gotta be like a little bit of like, why do people go to haunted houses?
All thrill and not even a little bit of fear.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a thrill.
It wouldn't be a thrill.
There you go. I believe we have solved the zombie apocalypse and its great appeal in our day and age.
Okay, a new segment today.
What? Another?
Inspect your gadget.
Oh no.
Where are the men?
And what do you think of when you hear church?
What do you think of when you hear church? This is a question that I've had lots of conversations about, lots of discussions about. So what do you think? You want to start?
Well, in a really positive way, I would say I think of kind older women who do a lot to support the community, both in the church and in the community at large. It's like, that's a thing. And often their husbands are with them, helping them out, setting things up, doing things for people. And of course, their faith is very important to them. The faith in God, their faith in Jesus, being part of the church. But I do tend to associate the word church with kind of older women, you know? And I think that's good, but limited.
I think of a building. And if I didn't spend so much time at this church, I would think of sort of your typical church, you know, the steeple, the no entranceway, just like a one-room building with a basement, and like you said, stuffy, cranky old people.
I did not say stuffy, cranky. I said
exactly as you said,
and helpful.
Stuffy, cranky old ladies. I believe is a direct quote.
Okay. So here's a question. Hey, where are the men? Especially where are the younger men?
Yes.
Where are they? Why aren't they here?
There's a few other things I think of when I think of church. And I think probably many of our listeners can relate to this. One of them is bad music. Or maybe not bad music, but maybe kind of just lame music.
Yeah.
And I admit I do.
And praise to our
well,
God.
okay.
Sorry.
I was just gonna admit that I'm probably guilty of lame church music as much as any other music provider is. So I'm not trying to point blame. I'm just saying probably that's something you think of. You probably think of boredom. You probably think of an old guy kind of using a bunch of language that only he understands.
But I think too, like I think
guessing.
Some people hope and want something more from the church at different points in our lives, including younger men. We're talking about today. Where are they? Why aren't they here? It's like there's some part of people that really wants to believe there's something out there, like a group of people, a community that can actually like take them seriously and help them answer the big questions in their lives. I think there's that hope out there.
Well, I was going to also say that I've had my opinion of the church changed in my life. I grew up being forced to attend church, and I think that gave me kind of I don't fault my parents. I make my kids go to church too, for the most part. They'd rather not, I guess you could say. But as I got to be an older teen, it started to bother me more that I was being forced to go. And when what really changed my opinion of what church can be or is, was when I realized that the church, it is a building. We are referring to a building, but we're also referring to the body of Christ, the group of people that follows Jesus. And once I started to meet some people, especially from other denominations, like other Christian faiths, who really loved Jesus and loved me, I started to feel like there was that side of the church, this idea of a family that you belong to. I'm just saying, it changed my opinion.
No, it's really important. Without that, I don't think I'd be here. But I also think some of this is about style and culture. And if you're designing or you're part of an institution, which we are in the church, it's an institution. there are certain things we just do because we believe God wants us to do, has told us to do them. We do them. But the style that we choose is not necessarily God-given. It's more like of its time. But you could even ask the question, is the style in which we do church of our time? And I think there's two great answers of what the church could be. One is like so different that it really attracts people. I think some of the people who go to the Latin Mass are really into that. It's like, this is not like anything else in society. Let's go there. It's just so different. It points to something beyond ordinary reality. Now that's of appeal to some people, including, by the way, some young men, as you probably know.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you can do is you can also say, well, a lot of what we do is not mandated by the church's teaching or by what we believe God has told us. It's just a question of style. So can we not like think about having things we do that are like of the style of things that men love?
Well,
what are some of the things men love? I'm gonna ask you that before.
Oh, you don't want me to
No,
comment on that?
Go ahead, comment.
Well, I was just going to say that if you ask people, Catholics, or at least cradle Catholics in particular, what they think of for church, they immediately, their mind jumps to the Mass, right? The central act of worship of the Catholic Church is the Mass, the liturgy, culminating in the Eucharist, where Jesus becomes present on the altar. They would immediately think of that, but there are many ways that the church can worship in different ways that are in some ways I think more appealing to at least to people who aren't familiar with it or aren't maybe ready for that stage.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying. And at one time I was in that boat. I wasn't necessarily attracted that much to the Mass that I had been kind of forced to go to all my life. That kind of grew on me a little bit. But there are other ways, other forms of worship. Is that? I don't know if I'm way off base there.
Oh, probably. I think that makes sense. There are other ways, certainly as Christians, specifically as Catholics, that we can do things. We can pray. We can sing.
So, what was your question? What do you like?
What do men like?
What do men like?
As far as we know, judging from, I would say, especially younger men whom we know. Well, let's be really obvious and simplistic.
I am a man, not as young as I used to be.
No, that's okay.
And neither are you, obviously.
Certainly not. I'd be probably thinking more of my sons and their friends.
Back in my day, when I lived in Chepstow.
Yeah, Sonny. I should not be making fun of old people. That's bad. I'm a chaplain at a nursing home. Stop. No. Okay.
We had to push our tractor. It didn't run. We had to pull the plow with our bare hands.
So I'm going to go by some of the men at the nursing home.
I walked uphill both ways through waist-deep snow to get to school.
It's not about being old or making fun of old people. Right. So what do men love? I'll say something very obvious to me. Meat. Men love meat.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think?
Oh, I think so. In general.
One of the most successful programs I'm on the board of.
I was going to tell a little story, but I'm not going to.
Oh, you can't?
No, I shouldn't.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe I will.
Go ahead.
Well, there's just that there was an attempt at a like kind of a vegan protest not too long ago. It didn't go that well. I think Grey Bruce, this podcast comes from the beautiful counties of Grey Bruce, Ontario. Sunny, it's beef country. We have lots of beef cows. I think we have the most beef cows
Bruce County
per capita in Ontario,
yeah,
Southern Ontario, maybe all of Ontario.
Yeah,
per capita, lots of beef cows, and people really like their meat. Right,
they do.
And it is a man thing, to get out on the barbecue and
yeah,
grill some meat. There's really nothing better than a glass of whiskey. Nice meat on the grill, nice steak there, maybe a sausage.
Yeah, and then people would say, and I would say,
delicious.
That's just like, okay, we could talk about beer, we could talk about, whiskey, meat. Those are kind of like the immediate creature appetites that people have. But what kinds of things like draw men in? I'm going to say men really need to be challenged, and they like that. They want something hard to do, something that's really meaningful where they can like make a difference. A lot of guys, like I'm thinking, maybe some of my two sons' friends, like bored. They may be even working and living fairly stable lives, but they lack like something great that they can be part of. I think that's something that we obviously have in the church if we believe in our mission, especially. But it's like, without that, it's like, just kind of going through the motions and the routine, which I, by the way, believe in. I think you need routine to be stable, but you also need that challenge. It's like there's something really like there's evil, there's a quest, there's actual spiritual danger, which we in the church are really aware of. I think even outside the church, so many people are aware of like spiritual realities going on, and they're trying to tap into it in different ways. Yeah, so I think there's a whole bunch of stuff in the Catholic tradition that's just like we don't talk about enough.
Well, and I think inadvertently we've told people that coming to church just means a spectator sport. You know,
Sure.
just sitting there, taking it in. Whether you like it or not isn't that important. You know, you don't have to do anything. And then, ironically, when we, since Vatican II, we've allowed lay people to do certain things in the church. For a variety of reasons, they tend to be women, right?
Yeah.
So if you went to your average church, you'd see a lot of the roles in the church, and not just at the liturgy, but in a lot of different ministries. If you think about like caring ministries in the church, like
Yeah.
which are a lot more common in the Catholic Church anyway than other types of ministry. You see those occupied predominantly by women. I just anecdotally, I know this from my own work, that when I go to conferences, retreats, things like that with my colleagues from
other Catholic churches.
other churches, it's skewed that way. And it's not to say that there's anything like directly wrong with that. Like I said, I think the reasons for that happening are kind of, they vary and they're a little bit nuanced, but the fact is a lot of men would get the impression there's not a lot for them to do, that they're not part of a mission, that they're not really being asked to do anything, and that they're not really that valuable.
Yeah.
Does that sound fair?
I know. And you know what? I think this may have to do with the word love, which is one of those words that is like, it just sounds like a word for women.
Love. How does Father Gary say it?
I don't know. Oh yeah. He says it like that. Love.
Love.
Yeah.
Love.
And ironically, in the Catholic Church, our pastors, our priests, our men, even our deacons are men, for whatever that's worth. Yeah, so I believe in the word love. The Bible says God is love. I believe that 100%, but it's not sentimental. It's not primarily sentimental. Your emotions matter to God. That's part of who you are. But if you think about love as like the center of the church, and it's like, then it sounds like something for women. It just does. It doesn't have to. Love shouldn't have that vibe, but it does. It does have
love is a verb. Agape.
Oh, agape. That sounds
Right?
sweet.
No, it's a verb. Love.
Oh, you mean it shouldn't be so like
to
that?
love means to do. It's
Sure,
an
it's an
action.
action
It's a
word.
choice.
Yeah.
You don't accidentally love somebody. You choose to love somebody.
Okay, how about some positives? Because I would say in the last 2 years, I remember we had this kind of conversation a few years ago, and then because I preach it once a month, I remember literally one Sunday, it was a February, probably 2 or 3 years ago, I counted all the young men, let's say between 20 and 40, at every Mass. So out of a total of about, let's say, 350, 400 people, 20 max were young men, maybe 10 or 15. Very few compared to any other category you could name: children, young women, middle-aged men and women, etc. It's a lot better now than it used to be. So I'm going to say what's happened is there have been opportunities open up here for men to do things, often with men. And this may sound simplistic, but just last Saturday evening we had a service in the parking lot. All the parking lot attendants, which were a really important role, were men. And that same was when we had the parking lot crew back a few months ago for the parish mission. It was men. And like, I know these guys, some are younger, some are middle-aged, but it's like really good guys, really solid guys, and they felt so wanted and needed, helping set up the stage, doing a little bit of light carpentry work just to get the stage level. And, hanging out with Rob when he was doing that. It's amazing. It's like stuff for men to do. So those are some of the positives. What do you think we could do that would make it a little more, just the experience of the culture of the church as a whole, without changing any of the teaching or the sacraments, that we could do for men?
Changing the culture of the church. I think it begins with having a clear mission. I think what you said earlier was, this is something we've been working on really hard here.
Yeah.
And something I haven't heard a lot about in other places, but because the Catholic Church certainly seems to have had kind of mission drift, where we sort of got into this, well, we're just doing it because we've always done it and we're expected to do it and it's our obligation.
Yeah.
That's not captivating. It's not even true, you know. Um, the interesting thing is the church has always had a mission, but it hasn't been well communicated. So I think that's part of it, is just having a clear mission.
Yeah.
This is what we want to do. And our mission is
to go forth and make disciples of all nations. Matthew 28.
baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
And so once you start with that, then you start to build opportunities around that men can engage in. And like, I think another little phrase I know it's kind of a cliche,
That's okay.
but raising the bar, right?
Right.
Increasing the level of expectation, to say to men in particular, we do not want you just to be here and just to be sitting here on a, you know, in a pew, kind of being a consumer. We expect more of you. We want you to live a certain way. We want you to choose to not only to follow Jesus, but to be his missionary. I think that's
okay. So something you got going here, which I thought was great. I did it once, and you know what I'm talking about right away, is a thing called Exodus 90, which is interesting to me. The first we had 10 guys doing it, and in winter 2020 we had like 17 guys participating, something like that.
Yes.
So what is Exodus 90, and why do you think it appeals to men?
Well, does it appeal to me? I'm not even sure. But Exodus 90 is a 90-day spiritual exercise. It has 3 pillars, or tripod legs, you could say: prayer, fraternity, and discipline, or asceticism. And those are the 3 pillars of it. So there's different things we do every day. We have to stay in touch with the fraternity and be accountable to an anchor in particular. That's difficult for men. It's difficult for men because being vulnerable isn't really something that comes easily.
Another way of saying that is being honest.
Or being honest. It's easier to hide in particular, our faults and our failures. So we do that for 90 days. There's a lot of things we give up that men enjoy: televised sports, television, movies, screens, sweet drinks, sweets, desserts. There's a bunch of things like that, with some exceptions. But it's a challenging program, but we've had really good feedback. And I think one of the reasons we have good feedback is because it is kind of difficult. It's not like your typical.
The one that jumps out at people when they hear about it, whatever they think about God or faith or Catholicism, if you heard this, stands out to people: cold shower every day.
Cold shower every day is a
stands
tough
out,
one.
Gets your attention. It wasn't the hardest thing for me, but it was hard to think about doing something. And I know guys who didn't do it the first time around because of the cold shower, who did it the second time around. And I think that just that cold shower, it's that idea like, okay, this is going to be a bit unpleasant, but not unhealthy, probably good for me in some way, I guess. And just like doing it for the sake of doing it is like almost in itself a rationale for men to say, yeah, I want to be part of that, because this is going to be hard. And if you think about it, what I experienced, the spiritual side of it was actually harder than the giving up things for me. And I think for a lot of the guys too.
So I guess our message to men would be, you have a mission. We can tell you about it. Join us.
Yeah, it's like I don't remember
I highly recommend Exodus 90. If the reason it's called Exodus 90, I forgot to mention that, is because the focus is on the book of Exodus, where the Israelites are escaping the slavery of Egypt, and so it goes through that. And there's a strong emphasis on freedom. And I think probably if most of us, especially men, were honest, we would realize that we're really not that free. That we have attachments, addictions.
Sin is the word in faith.
And that this is something. This is in some ways a tool to draw us out, like the Israelites were led by Moses out of Egypt and into freedom. But freedom isn't as easy as it sounds. It's like the Israelites, they had a lot of challenges, a lot of struggles, a lot of things happened to them that didn't seem good at the time.
Okay, I think the thing about Exodus 90 that I like as well is that it means a lot of effort. You have to put time aside every day. You've got to do all these different disciplines. But the more I think you get into it, I'm going back now to a year and a half ago. at the same time, you become more and more aware that you can't do this alone. You depend on your brothers in the group. You depend on your partner, and I think more than even all that, you depend on God. Like, you can't do this without God. Yes, you can fulfill all of the requirements, but to really get into it, you realize more and more how much you need God. I think that's actually pretty amazing for men. And then maybe flip that around and say, because I know the guys who done Exodus 90 last year and this year, then you realize God wants things from you. God has a plan for you, and he actually wants you to do stuff on this earth that no one else can do. I think that's, like, I've seen those same guys who did Exodus 90 now, like, turning around and doing stuff for the community, for the church's mission.
Right, you are.
Yeah. I'm glad we thought of Exodus 90. That's actually pretty amazing. Like, that's just, it's interesting, because I just want to ask you about one guy in particular. Did we not have a guy who's not yet Catholic participating this year?
That's correct. Yes, he was in RCIA. He took Alpha. Kind of, sort of took Alpha, I guess. He took it. He took it fully.
So he was participating on the journey towards becoming Catholic. That's what those words mean.
He had
Alpha and RCA.
For all intents and purposes, been introduced to Jesus in the last little while. Wanted to become Catholic. So he wasn't even Catholic, and yes, he did Exodus 90, and it was tough on him, but he made it through. All of the guys made it through. Nobody dropped out, which is amazing.
Do you know what his experience was like? Because he's a young guy in his 20s, and
it was real. Like I said, it was really challenging for him.
Yeah.
But he works construction, so I mean, it was. If you work hard, it's even worse, because it's sort of the things, that little comforts that you tend to sort of rely on when you're working hard.
Sure.
At the end of the day, come home, you relax a certain way,
have a couple of beers or whatever,
or watch something or whatever.
Yep.
These are stripped away, and you're like, well, now what do I do? So,
yeah. All right.
Anyway,
so there's hope for men. And
there are hope for men.
Better yet, there's hope for the Catholic Church, that we can be something that is appealing and attractive for men. All right.
Inspect your gadget.
It's copyright.
All right.
We'll be demonetized. We're already demonetized. Anyway.
So, Sam, have you got a gadget?
I brought a gadget today that I want to show you guys. Now, to be fair, to give you a little shout out to my son, Jesse, because this was actually his Christmas gift.
You have your son's Christmas present?
Yes.
That's what people do. That's
parents
not nice.
Parents can relate to this. You buy your kids something you think they'll like, they'll like, but it's also something that once they get tired of,
then you steal it from them.
You steal it from them because you like it more than they do.
Jesse, if you're watching this,
I did tell him. I did ask him if I could borrow it. He said yes. I've been using it here
for months now.
Things. It's been here for about a month, but he hasn't used it in a month.
All right.
So I used it for a while when he got it.
Anytime you want it back.
Anytime you want it back. So it's actually a gimbal. It's a Zhiyun from China. Gimbal. It's called a Smooth 4. And it's got a little control pad there, you can see. And what you do, I'm going to just skip it back a little bit here. You put your phone in it like this. You watching there, Charles?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And like so. And then you try to get a little bit balanced, like so. Okay, there we go. And then you turn it on. And what it does is, those of you who know what a gimbal is aren't going to be surprised, but it keeps it level and straight and smooth. Look at that. I don't know what it's going to do when I go right around. And it allows you to take really nice, smooth videos just using your cell phone camera. And cell phone cameras have come a long way, and they take very good video. So now you don't need an SLR. Well, I don't need an SLR. You can also get, of course, gimbals for an SLR camera.
Yeah.
Or like a digital video camera. But this works very well. I just took a video with it today. Looks really great. So thanks, Jesse, for letting me borrow it.
Thanks, Jesse, on behalf of Holy Family Parish.
And on behalf of Inspect Your Gadget.
Da-na-na-na-na, Inspect Your Gadget.
No, stop it. Stop it. We can't rip off every theme song.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I just improvised that.
We've already ripped off one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well. Okay.
Any parting comments?
We do a Raptors update?
You want to do a Raptors update?
Yeah, I do.
I thought you said you didn't want to do a Raptors update.
Oh, whatever. Don't throw it in if you don't want it.
Okay, everyone, it's time for Raptors update. And here with the Raptors update is your host, Charles.
Spicy C, especially with the Raptors update.
Spicy
Hey!
C, take it away.
This is so exciting. I believe I've just heard that the NBA is coming back with, I believe, a 2014 playoff format starting in late July in Orlando, where ESPN has like a campus or something. So obviously this is an indulgence for people like me that we care that much about the NBA and watching or even like listening and thinking about and paying attention to all this like millionaires playing for billionaires. But the NBA is kind of fun, and yeah, I think they're coming back. NHL is supposed to come back. For people who love sports and watching them more than playing them anymore, because I'm too old and my knees aren't that good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the NBA coming back, and the Raptors have a good chance as any, so why not? Yeah, that's my Raptors update. More to come. That's it.
That's it. That was the Raptors update. Thank you very much, Deacon Charles. Spicy C, as he's known around here.
Yes.
So in parting, I want to thank everyone for listening to this podcast / watching this podcast. We hope that you enjoyed it, and we would love to hear your feedback. So please email us. We have an email address now. It's swampthingspodcast@gmail.com. That's swampthingspodcast@gmail.com. Email us your questions, comments, concerns,
suggestions,
life problems, anything you want.
life advice for us.
We will definitely solve all of your problems. We have a very broad... Caring?
No.
I was going to say we have a very broad scope of knowledge, but very shallow.
Broad but shallow. I like it. Yeah. European history.
So we're like a really big lake.
Yep.
That's only like this deep.
Yep. Statistics. I know a little bit about a lot of statistics kind of things. Yeah. We'd be happy to help.
Anyway, so thanks everyone for listening. This has been the Swamp Things podcast. We will see you next time.